So I think I'm ready. I have my ornament molds. I have my mixing container. I have a plastic stirrer, a toothpick for later, nitrile gloves, glitter. I'm going to use red because the sticker I have to put on is, or the vinyl I have is green. It's a green tree. And this, which is just a small spray bottle of 91% isopropyl alcohol, which really works well on getting rid of bubbles in epoxy resin, and also baby wipes. They really do a good job in cleaning up. Okay, I put my gloves on. Make sure you do this in a well-ventilated area. I do have a mask that is blocks out all kinds of chemicals, but since this is a quick pour today, I'm just going to go quickly and keep the window open. So this is a 2-part resin, 1-to-1, and I do have a little project going on off camera that I'm going to use any leftover on. So this should work, and I'm using Let's Resin, and I have a big gallon-sized jug of each one, so they're a little awkward, but anyway, that's that. Okay. Now, use a plastic stirrer if possible. If not, you can use a popsicle stick, but the wood tends to put air into it, so it causes bubbles. So I'm going to stir this relatively slowly. I get impatient and I start stirring faster, but really you should stir slowly. And I don't know if you can see that it's kind of cloudy looking. See, like swirlies in there. You're going to stir until those are all gone, even with scraping the sides. So it takes about 3 minutes. Okay, I've gotten all the swirlies out, which I don't know if you can see, but there are a lot of bubbles in there. You want to make sure you scrape the sides of the container carefully and make sure that anything is mixed in. Otherwise you're going to get discoloration in your resin and sticky spots sometimes too. So just make sure it's all incorporated in. And depending on the resin you use, it could take a little less than 3 minutes or a little more than 3 minutes, but the secret is making sure that it's clear and no swirls. Okay, now I'm going to let it sit for a few minutes to let some of that air, some of the bubbles out. We still have a good amount of bubbles in there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 91% isopropyl alcohol and spritz in the top there, and it's going to help pop some of those bubbles while that's happening. Generally, this part of the mold right here is considered to be the top, but we're going to keep it as the bottom for this so that we can put on the vinyl and see exactly where we're putting it, and that will help with lining it up and making sure that no air gets on top of it. After about 4 or 5 minutes, most of the bubbles are gone. We still have a few, but most of them are gone. So with the type of resin I'm using, the Let's Resin, it tends to off-gas the bubbles pretty easily once we start putting in the glitter, and if we're using any colorant this time. So what I'm doing right now is I'm pouring some into a small container, a small cup, where I'm gonna mix some glitter into it. And I happen to like a lot of glitter, so I'm going to make it fairly thick. Now for this, I am going to use a popsicle stick and just mix it in slowly. Like that. And I might put a few more bits of glitter in there because I want to make sure that it is super sparkly. That was a lot of glitter. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, that's nice and thick with glitter. Okay, so now we're just going to pour. Slowly pour, because we don't want to add any more bubbles in. One thing that you can do also before you start to pour, which I'm going to do right here, is throw some, spritz a little more of that alcohol in. I especially like it in small areas like that because it helps the resin spread out and eliminates the potential for air bubbles. So, and when there are air bubbles, it leaves holes, and they're not pretty, and sometimes they can snag. So, yeah. So it will shrink a little bit as it cures. So you probably want to give it a good, at least make it level with the edge. Now I'm going to take a toothpick here, and because I know that sometimes we get bubbles up underneath in these small spaces, I'm going to do the edges all the way around with this toothpick and just make sure to get everything in the corner, all the corners, both sides of this circle, because we want to make sure that we get rid of all those bubbles. Also, one thing I do is I like to pick it up, so don't overfill it, and just drop it like that, and that tends to raise bubbles up to the top. And then we're going to take the alcohol again, and we're going to give it a couple of good spritzes. We'll come back a few times in the next 20-30 minutes and spritz it again, because as it heats up, it does cause more bubbles to come up, and so we can spritz those so they don't leave little gaps. Okay, it's been about 20-25 minutes now, maybe 20 minutes, and I'm going to give one last spritz of water. I've gone through 3 pairs of gloves, so make sure you have extra gloves on you, or available anyway. And now it's just time for cleanup. Also, once about 20 minutes have gone by, you don't want to move it too much. You want to leave it right where it's going to finish curing, because otherwise it'll get some more like squiggly lines on the surface, or striations, or bumps, even ridges. So we're going to leave that, and we'll come back in the morning. Okay, so I let more than 12 hours go. You really should try to let 24 hours go for it to cure, to do the initial cure. But usually 12 hours will work. And now I'm ready to demold these, and it's actually been 48 hours for me. I have my gloves, my cured pieces. I have a UV light, and make sure that you have a UV light that is strong enough your UV resin may tell you, but a nice strong nail light will work, but the weaker ones will not. So I have my UV light. I have one of these fire starters. I don't know what they're called. And I like the low viscosity UV resin for topping things like this. And I have my vinyl for that, and another one. And I get this one in a D-stash, it's called, for really cheap, so I don't even know if this one will work or not. I have a popsicle stick and some toothpicks. Okay. So I think I said we were going to put the decal on this side, so we didn't have to think about it. But actually, I'm going to take these out of the mold, and I'm going to decide which side, because I can. So honestly, excuse me, I think this one is the side I'll go with. Okay, I had a sneeze, so I'm back. So the actual top side is the one I'm going to use instead of the back, which I had planned. Same thing, this is one I did for that other one. I might do it on this side because I really want the green to show the Grinch face. So I'll probably do the correct side on that one as well. So using your gloves, you want to continue to use the gloves because you don't want to leave any marks that your fingerprints will leave. So just going to place the decal where I want it on here. I may have gone a little crazy on the glitter, but can't have too much glitter, can you? So we're just, you can use a credit card, a popsicle stick, whatever, and then you just want to mash it down. I'm sure you know how to do this. And then let's pull off the adhesive. And a little bit still sticking, so make sure you pull it off slowly so that it doesn't tear if it doesn't adhere completely. All right, so there's that one there, and we'll do the same thing to this one here. All right, and we're going to do the same thing. And then see if it's ready to peel off. Not quite. All right, let's try again. It's coming out. Okay. So I'm going to take the molds that they were in and put them upside down so that I can raise the ornaments up off of the tabletop. This way, if we spill, it won't stick to the table or the wax paper or anything like that. And it gives us a flat surface to work on. So you're going to take your UV resin, and you want to use very thin layers. So these have a kind of a large surface, so let's go ahead and put a good bit on, but don't squeeze it on to cover the whole thing, because we can always add more. So we're going to take the stick, the popsicle stick, and we're going to spread it out very carefully to thin it out. And we want to get it all the way to the edges. Try not to let it go over the edges. And we're going to do that to the whole piece. I am going to do this off camera, and then I'll come back when it's done. Okay, you want to make sure that it's not too thin. I do have a few blank spots here, so I'm going to make sure that we do have plenty to cover. You just don't want it too thick, because the light won't penetrate it, and then it'll be sticky and it won't cure all the way. So I'm just doing one at a time with this, because we don't want it to cure with the ambient light, which it will do if it's sitting out long enough on the table. You want to look at all the angles to see all the light reflections, and make sure that all the spots are covered. We have a little tiny spot over here. Okay, that looks good. Looks completely covered now. And I'm going to take my flame and just go over it very quickly, like that. That brings any air bubbles to the surface. Don't spend any time in one spot, because it will cause it to overheat, and then it won't cure properly, and you'll be left with a mess. So now I'm going to cure it, and I'm going to run it through two sessions, two curing sequences, and I'll be back. So actually I just did it for one series, and I noticed that it pulled away from one spot on the tree hair, so I stopped it after the end and inspected it. So I'm going to put a little bit more on, and I'm going to cover the entire thing, because otherwise it'll leave a mark. So we'll go ahead and put another thin layer and get that spread. It's a little harder to see if you're covered, because it's shiny from the first coating, but just keep moving your head around with the light, or use the portable light that you can move around to see all the angles. Just need a tiny bit more down here. And a little more over here. Okay, and then we'll do the flame again. Quick passes. because we don't want it to overheat or overexpose. A couple spots need to get over to the edge. Everything looks pretty good. I see a couple more bubbles, so I'm going to run another quick pass with the flame. Okay, that looks good. So here we go again. Okay, so I ran it through 2 more cycles. And it looks pretty clean, pretty clear. Now let's use your glove because you don't want to leave fingerprints, and it feels nice, not sticky. Yeah, so we're done. I think you can see that it's nice, smooth, shiny coverage there. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to this one, and that's it. Just a couple more things about working with UV resin. You want to make sure that you don't have your windows open if it's a really bright sunny day, or I should say your blinds open. You want to make sure that they are closed, or that there's not a lot of sun or even light. If you have a lot of lights, you want to try and work very, very quickly so that you don't cure the piece before you're ready to start the curing process. Also, if they're not quite cured, if they feel a little sticky to you, when you're done curing with the light, you want to take them, you can take them outside on a sunny day and set them out under the sun for about 5 to 20-25 minutes, somewhere in there, and the sun will complete the curing process. Another thing you can do is you can stick them in a clear glass of water and shine the UV light through the water on the piece, and the the water will amplify the UV. Another thing is that the UV resin also has odors and chemicals, so if you aren't going to be only doing 1 or 2 small things, you might want to put a respirator on and make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. I hope this was helpful.